Welcome, elite entrepreneurs and empire builders. Truly, this is what better way, man, to kind of work toward the end of your week, to end your Thursday. If you're joining us live, then with this interview, because truly the one I'm excited about today, because of the several interviews that we have done and bringing in so many different CEOs and presidents and founders, I don't think we have yet brought on a tech franchise yet. And so this is like exclusive sacred space that we're stepping into today that I'm bringing to you guys as potential buyers, potential owners. One of the biggest tech giants empires in the space in franchising. So this is gonna be a good one today. Drop your questions in the chat as we go, because if you're on with us live, you get to actually connect with the CEO right now. And so I'm bringing in the CEO of CMIT Solutions. They manage IT across different verticals for small and medium-sized brands in a number of different ways. They protect, they defend, they empower. We're going to dive into that. They have a little over 270 locations and just continuing to grow. So yeah, we're going to talk about territory and see what is still available, because they're looking for the right kinds of people. But this is not a company that's just now starting. This is not an emerging brand. They are, if you're looking for something that kind of reduces that risk because you want to be part of something with a name, with support, with a system, you have found the right one today. And we have none other than the CEO himself, Roger Lewis. He's done a number of things in the tech space before he got into where he's at today. And we're going to learn a little bit more about his story, but he served for 10 years with IBM. He actually served, I think his primary account was with NASA. So a lot of experience there. And then after that, he co-founded, and he was a CEO of an Inc. 500 brand called Team Tech International. And then after that, he also co-founded Alliance Tech, which is a software service company. And he served as senior vice president of sales and marketing there. He actually took that company from 0 to 12 million in revenue, and he's doing the same now today with CMIT. He brought this company that we're talking about today from 68 million to over 130 million in revenue and growing. Maybe you've seen him in Entrepreneur magazine or Forbes magazine, but we are blessed and honored, and this is my pleasure to bring and introduce you, elite entrepreneurs, to the one and only Roger Lewis.
Are you getting the most out of your technology? CMIT Solutions can help. We provide IT that grows businesses, secures businesses, connects businesses, and automates businesses. That's IT you can depend on. No matter your industry, size, location, or security risks, CMIT Solutions has you covered. Contact us today.
Hey, Roger, welcome to the greatest Facebook group in the metaverse, my friend. I'm glad you're here.
Oh, thank you, Jared. Man, what an introduction. I hope I live up to the hype.
No, man, truly, and I mean it. I mean every word, man. This is exciting stuff, and to have you on to talk about CMIT, to share some of your story, and invite so many other potential entrepreneurs with business acumen into the fold with your family of franchisees. So what an exciting time. It's going to be good. So let's dive right in, because that's why we're here. That's why I brought you on, is I want to hear a little bit more about you and your story. So can you share with us, tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah. So I'll back up. Like you mentioned, like IBM, you're right. I spent over 10 years with them. With the beginning of my career, I was assigned to the NASA Space Shuttle program. And that was, that was in Houston, Texas. What a great place to kind of launch your career as someone in tech, right in the middle of the space program. Back then was the shuttle, just kind of taking roots. And that was just, I won't kid you, like a little bit of a dream job at the time.
I bet.
And certainly a lot of fun, great memories there. Still have friends there today.
Wow.
But from there, a lot of like people on your channel kind of got the itch to do a few things, myself, and what would be like to venture on and become my own boss. And was very blessed. I did a startup, as you mentioned, Team Tech, which was focused in the IT space. It did quite well and it was acquired by a New York firm. And from there, I did a second startup because I really enjoyed the first, more in the software as a service space. And that one also, I was very blessed, did well, and was acquired by a company called CVent, who was then
Okay.
owned by Vista Equities. And
Mhm.
from there was when I was working there, when CMIT reached out to me and said, look, you have a lot of experience in tech. They wanted me to join, be part of CMIT Solutions.
Okay.
Back then, we were about, I don't know, roughly a third the size we are today. This was in roughly 2019.
Hmm.
And I came on, I think we're roughly 68 million. Like you said, we're north of 135 million in revenue, somewhere right around there.
Wow.
And so it
Amazing.
was a great opportunity. Just, sometimes it just seems like a great fit. You get an offer
Yeah.
and it just seems like it's where you're supposed to be. This was kind of one of those offers where I have done 2 startups, had a lot of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I could help IT companies grow. I
Yeah.
had been down that road before. And so
Yeah.
all things aligned. And here I am today.
Yeah, that's incredible. So obviously you've been around, you have the experience, you know tech, and you know how to start a business, and you know how to scale a business. You've done just about all of it. And so obviously clearly the right man for the role that you're in, and to lead this company to the next phase of growth and scalability and all those things. It's an exciting future. And I know you've built a whole team around your experience and knowledge too. And so it's exciting time to be a part of it. And that's what we're here today, right? I want to talk. I mean, we could spend the whole time. I'd love to hear more about NASA and some of your other tech startups and everything, of course. But really, I'm most interested in about CMIT. So tell us a little bit about what is CMIT? What does it do? How does it do it?
Yeah. So CMIT, we're a leading provider across the country of IT and cybersecurity services, really focus on that small and medium business market. As you mentioned, it's about 270 locations around the US. And what we do is we really try to deliver enterprise IT services and security solutions at a small business price.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, clients and customers in general expect to always have their IT up and always be secure. There's so many threats of
Oh my
cyber
goodness.
attacks out there.
Yeah.
The expectation is, hey, we want to always be up and know that our systems are always secure.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that's what we help deliver on that expectation on a day in and day out basis to our small businesses, again, across the US.
I mean, I feel like though the tech world is always constantly changing. There's so much variety and variable with it. Like I don't even know how CMIT stays on top of everything when it feels like every day there's thousands of new issues.
Well, that's what makes this job so much fun. Look,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
never
that
get
makes sense.
stale. If
Yeah.
you're in our technology business, look, the next big wave that's happening is AI, right? So
Right.
think about just technology 20 years ago, right? You didn't
Mm-hmm.
have your smartphones, that
Right.
people were walking
Yep.
around with every day. And so what I love about this job is what I'm doing today won't be what I'm doing 5 years from today.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
technology's advancing, and look, sometimes it's for the good.
Mm-hmm.
But even when there are things like I mentioned, cyber attacks and cybersecurity, which are you get very bad people out there.
Yeah.
It creates opportunities in our space to help protect our clients, which we didn't have to worry about 5 and 10 years ago. And so the industry is changing. I think AI is going to be the next big wave. You're going to see
Yeah.
that
For sure.
incorporated into many, many job functions.
Yeah.
So it doesn't remain stagnant, and that's
Yeah.
what I personally find exciting.
Yeah, is AI having a major impact on CMIT and the franchisees yet? Like how you guys, the services you provide to the small and medium sized businesses, and in what ways is AI impacting it already?
Yeah, I would say it's in its initial phase. So there are 2 ways we see it impacted. And
Yeah.
one way is in tools to help our small business providers. And so
Okay.
some of them are adopting Copilot, like let's say, and want it embedded in their writing and email tools, and some of it an automation to help them automate their businesses a little bit better. So
Okay.
where we're working directly with them to help streamline their businesses is the first way.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second way is more not as noticeable to them, but it's really on the back end side. A lot of the cyber defenses you see being used and deployed in our solutions are really now adopting AI to be able to help identify threats much, much quicker and combat threats much, much more. So the day-to-day small business person doesn't see that, but I would say there's certainly a level of maturity of AI that's being developed in that space.
Yeah. Yeah, I would envision it's hard to, with how constantly things are changing and adapting in this space, I'd envision it might be kind of challenging to know how to measure how successful you guys are at doing what you're doing. But from a franchisor perspective, other than like the 270 plus locations, which is incredible success, what are some of the measurements of success or metrics you guys use that you could share with us to know that you guys are successful at providing the services that you do?
Yeah. So look, the bar we mentioned a measure, and I told you a little bit earlier about regards to the customer expectation is uptime. So we look at how are our customers up, right? How long are they up, or time between uptime? We look at, and then we look at how well we're doing protecting them. So again, we measure all the threat vectors coming in, and we look at that and analyze that. We do something called a quarterly business review. So we sit down with our clients and we talk about either tickets they opened and trouble they've had with their technology, threats they've combated that we warded off. We talk about.
Is this all done from the franchisor level, or is this what your franchisees are doing?
From the franchisee level, the franchisor does all the training of this. So great question. So usually this is in that local market. And then we've done it well in regards to, look, we've been recognized in Entrepreneur Magazine's Franchise 500 for 10 years in a row. This past year, Datto, which is owned by Kaseya, awarded us the Business Velocity Award in 2024. ConnectWise, we were Partner of the Year Award. We've been in CRN, MSP 500. Wow. So we've been recognized as a leader in this space. But when you talk about metrics to the client, a lot of what we do is when we sit down with them and understand their business objectives, how well did we meet and deliver on them? And then we review with them again a lot of the threats that have been gone on to their businesses that they may not have even been aware of.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So then what kind of owners are you guys looking for then? Do they need to have tech experience on some level, like, or is that all literally you train all that from the beginning, or who are you looking for?
No, so great question, because a common misconception is, I need to be a tech to ever jump into this business. And that's actually our most successful, some of our most successful franchisees do not have tech backgrounds. Typically, we're looking for professionals such as people who come from maybe marketing, sales, finance, consultative. And we have people who come from tech, but I would emphasize, like, you don't need a technology background. One, we're going to help. Again, we have a stack that we train and educate on. We have a service delivery team that will help roll out solutions when you do get customers. A lot of it's the bare bones of any business, right? How do you get customers? How do you market to customers and bring them in-house? So we do a lot of the training and education on that. And so again, to answer your question, really our typical profile is a professional with diverse backgrounds. Like I said, sales, marketing, consulting, finance.
So what's the owner typically doing then? Is there a, I don't know if there's a regular day in the life of, but what is the kind of the responsibility of the owner?
Yeah. So initially when they launch, it's all about getting clients. So a lot of the training and education is getting your Google business up, teaching them how to network, build client relationships, marketing for them. We have a national lead gen line, and so that helping them generate leads. We do a lot of sales prep in regards to teaching them how to present, a lot of role playing with them before they go out there, so that they know value propositions and how to win clients over. And so initially, I would say it's mostly focused on growth, and that's sales and marketing. And then as you get more and more mature, you do hire techs and become techs, but we really don't want them worry about that day one. So we have methods where other franchisees will deliver the technology solution for them until they hired their first tech.
Really?
Yeah, so they don't have to worry about, oh, I need to have a tech day one.
Yeah.
We usually one of their usually
Because that's
someone.
probably one of the biggest concerns is like, where do I find the individuals to actually do this work? Yeah,
Absolutely. That's why we try to take that off their plate.
that's
Like,
amazing.
let's not have them worry about delivering the technology day one. Let's have them worry about, how do they get clients? And what's beautiful about our business, it's a reoccurring revenue stream, right? So it's a lot like the cell phone where, you're charging every month. And that's really been beneficial to, our new candidates who do launch.
Yeah. So then I feel like that is assuming that, I mean, you got over 270 locations. So because in my head, I'm thinking, well, you're going to have a franchisee nearby in order to make that a possibility, right? So tell me a little bit about the community as a whole, your family of franchisees. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So look, unlike a lot of other franchise networks I've seen and spoken with, we have a group of franchisees who interact, I kid you not, on a daily basis with each other, helping each other out. So there's a huge community we call the CMIT community that you almost become this family. So when one franchisee has a need for something, maybe they've never worked with a dentist before, there's a dozen different other franchise owners who work with dentists before and know exactly, like, maybe software and infrastructure they're using, who can provide assistance to that franchisee. And so the network and the community is just, I think that's one of our differentiators, quite frankly. And then inside of that community, then we have something called mastermind groups, where it's a smaller group that you're part of. And again, it's all about training and educating best practices within our mastermind group. So, when people are looking at us compared to, especially a storefront, a lot of people, will, when they look at some of these differentiators, will see these as a big part of that. Like, we're not throwing you in, to the deep end. We're kind of gradually educating you and walking and stepping you through.
Yeah, that's fascinating because, we've worked with so many other brands as well, and everyone talks about their community of franchisees. And that's a great question, Stella. Thanks for throwing that in there about the support of the whole community. But most franchisors will tell you, like, yes, they have community and they help out, especially when you get to talk to some of them. They'll be great validators and tell you about their experience, and you'll learn a lot from them. And, but to actually hear the pragmatic steps and things that are in place to receive from other franchisees while you're getting your business up and running, to be part of these masterminds that you're actually in community with them, not just, hey, can you tell me who's next door? Cause I got a question for them. And, so it's fascinating to hear the actual steps the actual things that are in place for potential buyers to know that, hey, you're not in this alone.
Yeah, look, the training that we take training very seriously, and they, before ever launch, they go through 3 weeks of what we call launch training. And in that training, 1 week of it is actual in person, and then we cover everything from our marketing playbook, like I mentioned, sales role playing, to how lead generation is done in your local community, and how we do it on a national basis. We have a deal desk. So if they get a fish on the hook, they can bring it to the deal desk to help them get the deal closed.
Wow.
Right. And then there's weekly coaching. We call it our success program, where every week they have a meeting with the coach who steps them through best practices on their journey to success.
Yeah. Wow. That is absolutely incredible. What does something like this cost? What's the overall investment? Is there a minimum, maximum kind of investment threshold they need to understand, or, tell me about the opportunity cost.
Yeah. So the opportunity cost, we like, them to have about 155,000 of startup. It's somewhere in that range. The franchise fee itself is 40,000, but depending on how fast they're closing deals, they're going to need that investment. So we tell people between 100 and 155,000. of
Gotcha.
upfront cash you want to have available, with
Mhm.
49,000 of that roughly being the franchise
The
fee
franchise fee. Okay.
to
Gotcha.
acquire the territory.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes sense. That's for a single territory. Do you guys do multi-unit territories as well? I mean, it's probably a little harder with what space you have left, but is that a consideration?
No, we do. Like you said, depending on the city,
Mhm.
if there is multiple and we discount use of the second territory, we usually don't like people to launch with more than two.
Okay.
I know some franchises like, buy 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
We want to get you up and going.
Yeah.
And so usually a couple of territories is our recommendation that they'll launch with.
Yeah.
And so that's also a possibility, like you said, depending on where they are. On the East
Yeah.
Coast, I'll be honest with you, it's a little bit harder to get consecutive territories, more
Sure.
likely on the West Coast and Midwest.
Okay. Gotcha. And are territories based on number of businesses then, or are they still based on zip codes and population, or how does that work?
It's a combination of both. So it's based on zip codes, but we
Okay.
look at how many businesses are in those zip codes. And of course, we throw out miscellaneous businesses like a gas station and things along that. So we look at
Oh,
targeted
okay.
profile businesses in those sets of zip codes. And we usually like to start
Okay.
a franchisee off with 3 to, let's say, 4,000 businesses that are legitimate businesses for them to target
Yeah.
in their territory.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. I had a question that's making me think. You guys target small to medium size businesses,
Yep.
and so what I'm not hearing there, of course, is you're leaving out large companies and corporations. I assume that's because a lot of their tech is going to be in house. They have people in house that takes care of all that for them. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yeah, and look, something that's also misunderstood sometimes is when people think of large companies, they don't realize 98% of all companies are small and medium businesses, right? So the vast market
Sure.
share, when you look at the spend in
Yeah.
cybersecurity, this is that small and medium space. And as you
Yeah.
said, look, when you work your way up the chain, when you're dealing with large, especially enterprise clients, they have all their IT in house.
Yeah.
And so they're usually not outsourcing it. Whereas let's call it, 5 to 500 size business,
Hmm.
those guys are typically looking for IT support needs, and they usually, don't have the cybersecurity expertise to ensure that they're protected.
Yeah. Gosh, that makes so much sense. 98% of all businesses are medium or small.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a great stat. That really puts it into perspective. The potential here
It's
for
pretty significant.
franchisees.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. I love that. So then you must have, across the 270 locations, how many franchisees it represents. Do you have any success stories that come to mind from current franchisees that you can share with us?
Yeah, like the one that comes to mind and warms my heart is a franchisee we have on the East Coast, Leslie Shirazi, who
Okay.
proudly won Franchise of the Year this year. So
Oh,
Leslie
really?
is a woman-owned business, uh, whose kids will tell you that she could barely work a smartphone, let alone they thought she could run a technology company. And she
That's
has just
great.
blown up her business over the past, growing by north of 40%. She's not only in our $1 million club, which we have people who reach the $1 million. She's really approaching our $2 million club as a
Yeah.
woman-owned business, and
Wow.
again was one of our fastest growing franchisees in 2024.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
she's, to me, a great example of someone who will tell you that she knew nothing about tech, nothing, had
Yeah.
trouble working her smartphone,
I love
and
that.
now she's a proven uh, uh, business owner who's doing fantastic in the
Yeah.
Northeast area.
Yeah. What was her background?
I think Leslie was she in fashion? I'll have to check to see, but
I
she
love that.
wasn't
That's
in
great.
it wasn't in IT at all.
That's hilarious. How long has she been a franchisee? How long has she been a part of the family?
Oh, she's been part of the family. I want to say, gosh, I know at least 8 years now. So she's
Wow,
probably
good for
been,
her.
yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. With all of that, I'm sure you could go on for days of success story after success story too. And I love those because it makes it real, it makes it real for us. But still at the end of the day, like it's going to come down to the finances for people. No one gets into business not to make money. Right. And I know you even mentioned already you have different clubs. You have the 1 million club, you have some other ones too. Can you tell us a little bit about the item 19 at all? Or speak into that like financial success for current owners, or however you want to kind of unpack that for us.
Yeah. So what is unique about our business model is I tell people who are looking at starting new businesses is that
Mm-hmm.
we have a scalable business model that involves reoccurring revenue. And our scalability is a differentiator. For instance, let's take a Chick-fil-A, very, very popular chicken.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how popular chicken is, a Chick-fil-A location can only get so many people in that drive-through every day.
Yep.
There's a limit to the growth size that they can achieve
True.
from that one location.
Yep.
That is not the same in our business in IT and cybersecurity. We have people 6 digits, 7 digits, and franchises growing 8 digits because, again, in that scalability of income and that reoccurring revenue stream. We were very blessed. We grew throughout COVID. Again, it had a lot to do with that reoccurring revenue stream. You're charging a fixed fee per month, usually per user, to manage that business's IT. And that has led to a lot of franchise success in our business. I remember at our convention we just held in November, we ran the stats on that, and 1 in 4.4 of our franchises was part of the $1 Million Club, which was phenomenal. We had this huge table, it never had been so long ever, of all the $1 million owners.
Yeah.
And that has to do with, look, our services are very sticky. They're very, very scalable.
Mm-hmm.
And there's really no top end threshold to the revenue that you can bring into your business.
Yeah. Wow. Is there, for anyone that's still on the fence, as we I want to be respectful of your time, Roger. And is it for anyone that's still on the fence, that's either watching this live right now or they're watching this later on and catching up? What would you say to an elite entrepreneur and empire builder considering your brand? Why should they consider CMIT over some of your competitors?
Yeah, look, when I think about that, I think of one, we have 25 years of success, so it's a proven business model.
Yeah.
2, I talked about that reoccurring revenue stream. That's so important, right? Both from a valuation of your business, when you go down the road to sell it, and also it's super important in getting through tough times like economic times, that reoccurring revenue that just kind of rolls in the door. And then look, the high margins we have in our business. Look, our gross margins of managed services are between 70 and 75%. You don't see that in many other franchise businesses.
No, right? You really don't. That's true. Wow.
And then lastly, like I said, the education, the community and support, I do think that's a differentiator. I think if you talk to our franchisees, a lot of them will tell you that community is a differentiator from what other businesses they've seen.
Yeah. Wow. Rogers, genuinely, thank you so much. Friends, if that's you, like I can't encourage you enough to even just start the conversation. If you want to learn more, you can do so today by just typing CMIT in the chat. You can put those letters down there, CMIT, and get the conversation going today with us. And what we'll do is we'll kind of reach out to you and we'll get a conversation going with you as well and kind of begin the pre-qualification, so to speak, and see if this is the right next best step for you. If you're looking for a brand or a franchise or a business where you can work for yourself, you can be your own boss, and you want to be in something that is highly scalable. There's almost no limit. You're limited to just however many businesses there are in your territory, which is incredible. How many there are in these territories. 98% of all businesses are not large, so most of the people you're working with. So the potential is almost infinite, and the margins are, like Roger shared, some of the highest I've ever heard in franchising. And I work with 350 different brands. And so I'm not kidding you when I'm saying that these margins are ridiculous. And so if this is something, and it's also in a space that is that is always going to be around. Like tech isn't going anywhere. It's been around. This company's been around long enough to go through every change and every development that has ever existed in the technology space. And they're continuing to find success in it by helping other businesses. And so if you're looking to build your own tech empire, this is it. So all it's going to take is for you to start today. Just type CMIT in the comments. We'll get a conversation going with you and begin to see, hey, let's start with territory. Let's see if you qualify. Let's start some of these pieces, and then we can connect you to Roger and his team, and maybe welcome you into being a part of that incredibly close, supportive community of franchisees. So until then, Roger, man, I cannot appreciate you enough for being a part of this and doing this and hopping on here and sharing some of your wisdom and your heart for CMIT and for people. And so just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much.
Oh, Jared, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Friends, until next time, this is Jared with Fran Opps. Roger, thank you once again. We'll see you again next time, friends. Take care.
Take care.